BC Wildfire Service has released their spring 2025 fire outlook, and it's got a bit of a review from the winter as well. I think what you're going to find as we go through this together is that a lot of this pretty much mirrors what we've been saying on the channel a lot of this time. So that is always good for me. I like to see that other people are saying the same things, that confirmation. It's good to see that. And it also is good for you to see that, hey, Joey's not out to lunch here. The things he says in the channel are what the meteorologists and wildfire behavior experts at BC Wildfire Service are going to say too. So let's have a look through it, and we'll try to interpret some of this and explain it for you here on the channel, Joey Only Caribou Weather Dude YouTube channel. Hit like, share, subscribe. Thank you. Ring the bell for notifications as well. Let's go. There it is. This is bad news. My God. Falling out right now. Anything could happen. Get on! Wow. I'll watch the video later. They dry mopping this. So first, the seasonal outlook starts off with a reflection of the past. How did last season end, more or less, right? And what we're looking at is the drought code at Halloween last year. And as you can see, BC was still suffering through a lot of drought at that time, the Northeast in particular, but the Caribou as well, sections down towards Kamloops in that area, and is also through the South Kootenays, through boundary there, West Kootenays, East Kootenays, and into up the Columbia River Valley in the Cranbrook side, right? So that's what we were looking at by the time that we'd already had fall weather for some time. We still hadn't had the precipitation pattern that we were hoping for in the Caribou. At the end of the 2024 wildfire season, we continue to see the impacts of multi-year drought conditions, which persisted into the fall over the northeast corner of the province. Several months of below normal precipitation in the southern Nechako and Chilcotin Plateau regions led to increased drying in those areas as well. These deep drought conditions were evidenced by fires that burned well into the fall in the northeast and in the southern Nechako region. As a result, northeast corner of the province once again saw large wildfires continue to smolder underground over the winter. These overwintering fires are now in some areas smoldering and producing visible smoke. That's concerning because we know that there is the one that was south of Hilding there out on, what's it called there? In the Francois Lake District, basically. He's in Grassy Plains. That's well south of Burns Lake. And there was that big one in Tweedsmuir last year. And what I'm gathering from this is probably that's one of the ones that's showing some smoke as well. So we'll ask Hilding about that to keep an eye that direction as conditions warm, especially as we come into Friday, where it's going to get warm enough that I would expect some of these areas that are, if they've produced smoke before, they're probably going to stand up a little bit and have some active burning, show themselves a little bit. I don't know if they have time with the weekend weather settling in the way it will be with cooler, humid conditions to do anything or move much. Nonetheless, like the chance that they're going to show themselves or that wildfire danger may be a little higher because it's all about that weather, right? In 21 degrees, you're not quite into like real burning conditions, but you're in warm enough conditions that fires will start to react to that heat. BC wildfire personnel in the Prince George Fire Center are currently monitoring existing fires as conditions allow and have prioritized response objectives. They met with local government and interest groups to discuss holdover response in the region and address community concerns. So you can find more about that on their website here, BC Wildfire Service. Winter 2025 had unusual precipitation patterns, okay? And so what we're going to look at here is these anomaly images. And these anomalies, it's too bad I can't click on them and zoom in. But anomaly means how much more or less than you expect to see, right? So as we go through October, the anomaly looked pretty good for the coast in terms of in the plus, and pretty good in the plus for the Rockies. But as you come into the plateau and in the Caribou and the central regions of the province and up into the north, not good. It continued to be not good in the northeast, I should say, for much of this. If you look at all these things, we see we're below. So that we've said on the, I wanted some confirmation when we talked about one of my last fire videos where I gave sort of projections about the summer. I talked about that it's showing on at least the Windy app. There's no provincial data made available publicly yet, but it showed on the Windy app that there's still a large drought up into this whole region, and this data seems to evidence that. So that's a good return. That's good to see that we're getting somewhere there. Now, we did do okay in November in the Prince George region on the whole, into the Pine Pass, and not bad for December there as well, but below average through much of coastal BC. The Chilcotin basically stayed below average the whole time. And we know from snowpack readings we looked at here in the channel that they're at 0% of their expected snowpack up in the mountains there. So it's really bad situation for the Chilcotin. That's where I expect to see fire season probably do something first, something, meaningful, larger, something that's not just a holdover fire waking up or, a couple hectares that gets out of control for a day or two. I'm talking about, a fire that may actually be able to, you get a couple thunderstorms there when we get into the season, and we may see a number of fires in the Chilcotin this year. It's a problem area right now. Looking good, though, as it came into March, into the Coast Mountains and southern BC. So we've been below a lot, and we saw that in our snowfall discussions through the winter as well, that we were below, but there was a bit of a recovery in March where A, we added some snow on, but B, temperatures were cool enough that we didn't lose a lot of the snow through most of the month. We had a couple really warm days, but for the most part, March was at expected or below temperatures for what you'd expect. So above average fell in southern BC, helped to relieve drought in the coastal and southeast fire centers. Well, BC was forecast to experience La Nina conditions, which typically favor cooler temperatures and increased precipitation. We had an abnormally dry January and drier than usual February, and that's what we did say in the channel here. So lots of good confirmation here. That's good. I feel like this is going to help me with my confidence into what I'm probably going to be saying in the next couple of weeks when we get into our next series of fire weather forecasts, especially. As a result of this trend, snowpack growth was limited January and February, but precipitation increased significantly in March across southern BC with 100 to 200% of normal amounts received. Supported the development of more robust snowpack in the south. However, mountain ranges in the north saw limited accumulations at this time. Snowpacks at higher elevations are an important factor in lightning-caused wildfires. That's true. When mountaintops are covered with snow, vegetative fuels cannot ignite. And that's true, right? So we see that a lot of the lightning activity goes for the highest places. So the longer that the high places keep their snow, the better. Spring outlook. Here's when we're going to really get into it here, and then we'll talk about the summer long-range forecast. And we're not going to bother watching their little video. You can go and watch their video. We're making our own here, but we're using their public release to discuss. Okay, with spring's arrival, the weak La Nina conditions experienced through the winter have faded. It's over. Well, La Nina is over. We didn't have much of it at all really here in BC whatsoever. And the culprit is likely the fact that the ocean temperatures are so beyond what has been normal. Right? The ocean is way normal than it's ever been recorded to be. And that's not a matter of debate. You can debate it, but you're wrong. That's the data. That's what we have evidence for. We know that this is the case. So is it possible that the cooler waters at the equator that came, it just wasn't, they got either mixed with the warmer water too much, or it wasn't quite as cool as what came up and it just didn't last. And the overall condition of the ocean is a warming trend. And it's been noticeable this past, we'll say 3 years now, especially. There has been a jump in when we started hitting in 2023, that 2 degrees above pre-industrial temperatures on planet Earth, right? So we're warming up fast. Okay, many valley bottoms in the southern interior are free of snow, allowing grasses and fine fuels that are drying out quickly now because it's the spring dip, as I've told you on the channel now too. We got things aren't growing yet, but there's a lot of dead stuff out there, and it's way drier than you'd want it to be, way quicker. This marks the beginning of the annual. And they say it right here, spring dip. Spring dip. I haven't read this yet. Sorry. The spring dip describes a decrease in foliar moisture, or the amount of moisture in the needles of coniferous trees. So it occurs in the period shortly after snow is melted, but before vegetation begins to green up. Trees, and specifically conifers, also have low moisture content, which makes them especially vulnerable in early spring. And especially if they start getting a couple really, really hot days, they'll be doing a lot of off-gassing. We anticipate above average levels of precipitation through early April over coastal and central BC. This rain is helping to make underlying dry conditions across the southern interior, delaying the onset of increased wildfire hazard. Okay. We expect ongoing drought conditions to persist across the Northeast and in the Cariboo, even if these areas received higher or average or higher levels of precipitation. However, drought conditions have improved compared to spring 2024. So we're a little better off, but we haven't improved much. Watch what Neil McLaughlin says here after a brief presentation on the spring wildfire outlook. Okay. We're going to look at this. So the long range forecast for the summer is showing, and we are already seeing this right now on the maps. Like every day I've been pointing at how unusually hot it is in the United States. The Gulf of Mexico is already at hurricane favorable temperatures, right? Like it's in the 80 degrees mark already in the Gulf of Mexico, and I will always call it the Gulf of Mexico's. So we got precipitation outlook for April, May, June too. That doesn't look too bad for us. And that is what I am hoping for, is that this year, from my expectations, does mirror a number of, at least what the ocean conditions are right now in terms of the oscillations between El Nino and La Nina, that it mirrors a couple notable years that weren't terrible fire seasons. However, it also mirrors a couple that were. So what we're finding is it's kind of an unpredictable phase for British Columbia. It really depends on where high pressure is going to sit in and dominate, and where that jet stream is going to lie. And if we have an upper level low in the Gulf of Alaska, that can kind of keep steering things south of us and keep us in the cool side for a lot longer coming into the summer. That's the case mostly right now. That's how it's been. So they're saying precipitation outlook April, May, June 2025 is a little bit above, and I can believe that based on, what I've just said to you. However, the temperature outlook isn't great, and that's still, we have to get into the summer proper before we can really know what are we going to be going at. But what does concern me too is that this precipitation outlook, that may be the sign of a thunderstorm pattern. And I know it's a little green blob in a map, and you say, well, how can you infer that, Joey? Well, if we have temperatures above and we have a little higher precipitation outlook, are we talking about conditions that can create for good convection? And we've seen in BC already this year quite a bit of lightning in the province into March and in early April. So we've already had a number of fairly strong thunderstorms, and we've had lots of days of that convective squall thing happening. So to me, and then we just saw last year one of those same systems went into Alberta, or last weekend, one of those same systems went into Alberta, and it spawned a landspout tornado. So we know that things are a little early this year already in terms of that convective behavior. And if that convective behavior continues, well, the heat tells me there's a good chance it will. The heat's going to add instability if you have moisture coming on through, and you have cold fronts bringing moisture off the Gulf of Alaska here and off the Pacific Ocean. So, that remains to be seen. So the question is, do we have high precipitation thunderstorms like we did a lot in 2020 and 2019, or do we have low precipitation ones like in 2017, 2018, for example? And last year we had a bit of a mix of both, but certainly through a lot of July, it was low precipitation thunderstorms, and they were sparking a lot of fires everywhere they went. So that's the question, is it a bit of both? Is it one or is it the other? Some years like 2020 was a lot of high precipitation. We had a lot of lightning here, but it was a lot of high precipitation in those thunderstorms that came in, and the storms just hammered day after day after day in this town. So with warmer than average temperatures we expect in the spring, coupled with potential for above average precipitation over coastal and central BC, the above normal precipitation could help mitigate the drying impacts of warmer temperatures and continue to promote early green up of vegetation. So there's that too, right? So, those are just the variables we have to look at, and it means basically that no one's really exactly sure yet, right? So May and June are typically the rainiest months, so that's what we do want to see as well on this chart. Is we want to see that little bit of green coming through here. That's the way it should be, the rainiest months in the BC interior. The amount and duration of rain events during this period influences the length and intensity of core wildfire season. So if it's like, a system comes through and dumps a bunch, and then it's dry for a week, then a system comes through? Or is it like we come into a pattern where for 5-6 days at a time, it's like sparking up until, it gets warm, and then a series of thunderstorms comes, or, the nature of these kind of behaviors remains to be seen. And I think until we sort of get a little bit into a warmer trend that's consistent, we won't know really yet for sure. Like we have a couple warm days this week coming up in the BC interior, Friday especially, I should say. But the ultimate reality is that we're going back down to average or below average temperatures for a while, still into April. So we're not into a consistent pattern of warmth yet. That's what I'm saying. We're into an unstable, humid, coastal influenced pattern a lot. even if we're not getting the amounts of precipitation inland that we'd kind of hope to have associated with that. Okay, well, that's my look at the BC Wildfire Services Spring 2025 outlook. I hope it helped you a little bit. Please ring the bell and hit like, share, subscribe, and keep coming on by. It's and maybe join the Patreon too if you want to help or become a channel member. Like, I'm really struggling to keep the channel going right now, and I know I'm just trying to hold out until thunderstorm season, because that's when I'm going to be able to do a lot of help for everybody in BC. Just got to get there. So thanks for all the support, guys and girls and humans and friends. I appreciate you all very much. Thanks. Have a good day.